Welcome to the No Shame Podcast. I'm John Groders. Once a year, filmmakers and producers, actors and directors from all over the world gather to be encouraged in the Lord and in their craft at the International Christian Visual Media Conference, or ICVM. We spent the week interviewing many of those who attended for our podcast.
Have no shame, no, we are not afraid, no shame of the gospel of his name. It's the power of God by which we are saved. We need not be afraid, no shame.
Okay, welcome to the No Shame Podcast at the intersection of faith and culture, and on the first day of ICVM here in Nashville. Well, I guess we're more down in Franklin or Cool Springs, but the greater Nashville area. And this is the No Shame Podcast, and I am with Beverly Holloway. And she's a bigger name in the industry than you might know unless you follow who casting directors are. But Beverly, thank you for sitting down and talking with me.
Oh, of course. It's my pleasure.
I want to just dig deep with you because I think you are such a key person in the industry, but, maybe not a household name for people in the industry. So What does a casting director do?
Well, basically, we typically work with the director and the producer to help bring their vision for the various roles in their film, kind of bring them to life. And so we're the ones kind of mining for choices and to give them options and to really put that puzzle pieces together of which actors and which roles and who's going to play well with each other and to kind of create that overall ensemble. So we're looking for those actors and helping make lists and then facilitating that and doing sessions and reaching out to agents and all those things.
Well, I am 100% believer in the adage that directing is 90% casting.
I am too.
And I love directing actors, but there's nobody more important to me in a movie than finding the person who is going to sift through the casting process with me. And it's tedious and it's difficult. You think that these actors just show up one day on set, but it is a tough process to go through. It's tough for everybody. It's tough for the actors.
It is.
99% of whom get rejected.
Yes.
It's hard for me to sit in a room and reject anybody. I'm kind of a pleaser. I that's why I really like Skype auditions now. It's just a little bit safer for me.
It's true.
But I just wanted to ask you a little bit about casting, and I've been thinking about it. You cast I Can Only Imagine.
I did.
And I've been in Beverly's office in California. It's been maybe 10 or 12 years, and I've never even got a chance to use her. I'm not big enough, but I know who she is. And when I watched the screener last year and I saw your name on the casting, I mean, honest to God, I thought, oh, did you kill this one?
Oh,
you
thank
killed
you.
that one.
Thanks,
because you found,
Robert.
tell me how you found the lead, because that's just the most amazing piece of casting I've ever seen.
We know it's interesting, and of course, casting is a complete team effort always. So it's really collaborative, directors and producers and my team. But Andy and John Irwin had the real foresight to plan to look for the lead months in advance of when you would normally start casting. So they brought me on, actually, I think it was about like 3.5 months before I would traditionally start casting on a film to look for that one lead. So we put out the breakdown, which is kind of it's a service that goes out with a character description and lets all the actors and agents know that we're looking for this role. And so we put that out and began to get submissions, and then I also did in-person casting in Nashville, here in Nashville, and then also in Dallas, and of course in LA. We looked in New York, but we had agents from all over the country submitting their people, and we just had tons of auditions, whether it was in person or via video. And so the first part of that process, though, is going through the submissions. That typically is just a headshot and a resume. And so we did have kind of a look we were looking for. And John and Andy were really great about kind of telling me what they were looking for physically. And Bart looked very different earlier in his career than he does right now. And so we had to kind of always keep reminding ourselves. I had to keep reminding myself, okay, we're talking years ago, not right now. But more than that, there was a quality that they were looking for. So we got the submission after really, we'd been looking for a while. I had already auditioned and done callbacks on several people. And then we got the submission on John Michael Finley. And the look was good, so that's the first thing, So you send it out and say, okay, let's see. And then he sent in his audition, and then that's when you realize, okay, there's real potential here. Like, he has the voice of an angel, because we had found actors who were good actors, but didn't have the voice, didn't have the chops, and then vice versa, had amazing voices, but couldn't pull off the range that we needed from an acting standpoint. And here was this guy who had this amazing voice, and he had that kind of aw shucks humor, life of the party kind of personality that Bart has. And it really, Andy and John saw it, and they just had that gut sense that he was the guy. And so then we arranged to have, they went and flew to New York, and J. Michael was on Broadway, and so they went and they saw him and did a callback in person and kind of really push things with him, and then the rest is history.
You're not supposed to notice the score, right? A really good score is it takes you emotionally down the movie, but you're not distracted. You're not supposed to notice the edit, right? The edit is supposed. Truthfully, you're not supposed to notice the casting agent. But when I saw I Can Only Imagine and said, how did she find someone who looked like Bart, who acted like he had that sense of life? And then I'm watching the movie going, I can't even tell he's lip syncing. He really looks like he's singing. I mean, I'm a singer. You can tell the difference between singers and not singers. And like, my goodness, how is Bart singing that song? But it looks like, and then when I realized, that guy is singing the soundtrack. How many people can sing like Bart? Nobody, except him. He plays Jean Valjean on Broadway.
Exactly.
He has got the chops.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a God thing. Honestly, at the end of the day, I've said this many times, God's the ultimate casting director, right?
Absolutely.
You pray, especially at times like that when you've been looking, so much is on the line. We got to find the right Bart. And so much rides on it. And you're just praying, okay, God, just help me to know where to look. Open those doors. Send that person. Give us the wisdom to recognize the person when we see it. And it's just a God
So this
thing.
is Beverly Holloway. I'm trying to give her all the credit, and she is turning it around and giving the credit to God, which is what I love about you. I'll give you my little casting story. So I was casting in Romania this year, and I'm looking for the parts of Richard Wurmbrand and his wife Sabina. And these are people of such great depth and character. I don't know. I feel like actors can always play down from who they are. They can play a badder person, a lesser person, a meaner person. To me, the hardest thing for an actor is to portray someone actually maybe greater or smarter than they are. Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abraham Lincoln is a fantastic example. Abraham Lincoln's a tough act to portray.
Absolutely.
Because he must have had such a light inside. But Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the great actors. So I think I'm looking for Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand, who have become heroes of the faith to me. And so my criteria was, I'm not going to worry about physical appearance. That's just asking too much. Let me find someone who's got the sense of humility and strength and can carry it off. And, of course, what happens is that the best two candidates look like identical twins.
Isn't that crazy?
To the original people. It was the last thing I was worried about. And you would swear we had footage from them as their youth, because that physical resemblance.
I love
when that
it.
happens, what you just said, can we take credit for that? God arranged this years in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just saying, another film I worked on, Indivisible, screened just a little bit ago. And when the trailer first came out, I honestly hadn't really even seen a picture of the real Darren Turner.
Good.
And when we cast Justin Bruning, and I was watching the trailer thinking, he looks just like him. And we didn't even do that, It's absolutely true.
If you ever do a movie about me, if anyone writes a movie, would you cast Justin Bruning? Because I want to pretend that I look like him. He is a stud. He was terrific. That was I just watched this movie, Indivisible. Tell me a little bit about what else you are like. What do you do when you go to work in the morning, and what's happening in the industry? And are you busy, or are you scraping every week? Like, how's it going for you?
It's certainly been both throughout my career, and there have been many times that I have really contemplated whether it was what I was supposed to continue to do. And there's certainly been years where financially it was hard, and you do I look at the financial side, it's not all about the money, but I do think that's a part of God's provision. So whenever I feel like the provision is lean, I have to stop and say, okay, is it lean because I'm walking a path that I'm not supposed to walk anymore? Or is it lean because you're trying to teach me something? Like what's going on here? Because I know it's not a surprise to God, right? When things are lean. So I try to figure out. So there have been many times where it's like, okay, God, am I on the wrong path, or has my path changed? Is it time for me to go a different direction? And each time, there have been a couple times I literally interviewed for jobs, and then a big project came up. And
you hear that, listeners? It's not just you. It's not just me.
Yeah.
We all. This is a common thing. We're going to need to be dependent. So even you,
absolutely,
unbelievable.
Absolutely. And in the recent years, I'd say in the last 2 years, it's certainly there has been more consistency of projects, and so I actually have been consistently busy for the last couple of years, which is incredible. And having been through those times where I wasn't, I never want to take that for granted. And so, I definitely see more happening, and I'm happy to see that there seems to be a greater emphasis put on the cast within the movies, especially within the faith world, faith family world. And so I think that is another part of it too, is I think we're all working to go that next level up in what we do and what we present and what we put out there. And so for that reason, it is getting busier for me, and I'm super excited. And I have producers, call me, and we just kind of chat about things sometimes if they're not in a position to be able to kind of hire a casting director or not at that stage. But I love that that matters to them,
Right.
So that's a tone I've seen a change in the last few years, and I love it, because of course I'm going to say I think everyone should use a casting director, because, that's my job.
Yeah.
But I really do sincerely, because I do think, one, it broadens your expansion of your world. You know so many people, and sure, you may know a lot of great actors. But there's a lot of great actors you don't know.
Exactly.
And so you don't know what you don't know, and so to bring
when
choices.
600 names come in on Actors Access, and you go, where do I start? I can't watch 600 reels.
Right.
It's again, I go back to what we were talking about earlier. It's a bigger job than people have any idea, to try to find that one person on the planet to play that one role on the 3 weeks that you are shooting, that they have to be available for and not have had whatever. They have to have a beard the next week. There's a million details that all have to fall in place. Availability is a big one. And you've been now doing this. I imagine the longer you do this, the better you get at it. The more people you know, the more you're expanded influence.
Well, like anything, we all learn, right? The longer we go, the more we learn. So I don't know if it's so much that I've gotten better. I've just learned some lessons that I think I needed to learn, and I do know more people, and my world is expanding all the time too. And always kind of being open to that, and keeping a lookout for people, and keeping an open mind, and challenging myself too, because I oftentimes am challenging the director, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but just in a, let's think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Does the person have to be
Denzel
Caucasian?
Washington cannot play every role, so it can't. Everyone's got Denzel in mind when
they do.
What's harder, casting the leads or casting the 25 smaller parts that are important for a movie?
Oh gosh, they're completely different challenges, and so they each have their set of challenges. Casting the leads can be difficult when you're going after established talent, because financially, what can you do? You have to be able to reach them and get to them, and oftentimes they have just huge walls of people that make it difficult to get material to them. So it's a different set of challenges. In casting all of the supporting roles and all the day player roles, there is not a single role that doesn't matter.
Right.
And I know
Absolutely.
sometimes actors, it's a one-line role, or, it's like every single one of those roles, we look at, we audition, we get multiple choices, we search for, because we've all been and watched a movie where you're going along with it, and then someone comes in that just isn't
Right.
a strong actor, and it kind of takes you out of it for a minute, right? So every one of those is important. It's just a different process. Then we're actually reading the actors and doing live auditions and looking at video auditions and going through actual reads from the actors, as opposed to the other, which is mostly paperwork, to be honest.
See, I would have so much. I just would enjoy talking with you about our business. I had a role in Tortured for Christ,
Yeah.
Lucian, and he's a big role. He's in a lot of scenes. He's right there at Richard's side. He's always taking the beating. He's in the whole movie from the beginning. He has 0 speaking lines. He has not one word. But
tough.
he's a major part of the film. And when we met Ray Lou and we cast him, and I said to him, this is how I see you as the Samwise Ganges to the Frodo, but you've got to, are you okay if you have no lines? And he's a quiet man. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he says, of course I am. And I really love his performance, and I don't always watch it. We screened that film this morning, and I watched him more than I've ever watched him before. And I edited the thing. Yeah. But he brings so much, and he has 0 lines. I couldn't just do a read with him.
Right.
Those actors are critical to the scene, and you've got to find them sometimes, and they don't all have lead parts and sing like Jean Valjean.
Yeah.
But they're still critical, aren't they?
Yeah, and you hit on something that's really critical, which is the heart of the actors. Not everyone is going to share the same spiritual beliefs, but you want to work with those actors who at least have a kind heart, a compassionate heart, and who are in it for the right reasons. And so when you meet actors like that who understand that it's a great role, it has nothing to do with the number of lines, that's the kind of actors you want to work with, right? Because they get
joy.
it.
It's a joy when you're all in it together and there's no ego. Have you ever had any big, brouhahas, any botches, any catastrophes in your career? Any big misses?
Well, of course I don't. I won't.
We won't mention any names.
Yes, I can say I won't say anything other than just yes. Yes.
Of course, without even inferring, can you give me a story that's funny without mentioning the movie, the director, the actor? Like, what happens when it doesn't work, and you know it, and what happened?
Well, there's just there's been a couple. Thankfully, not a lot.
Not many.
I'm very glad for that. But I do remember one where I used to sing on the worship team at my church, and I usually give the actors my phone number in case they need anything, or some of them I get to be friends with a little bit more than others. And so I was singing in worship at my church on a Sunday morning, and there was some time in between, and so I was out, I think, having coffee or something, waiting to go on for the end of the last service of the day, and I get a phone call from Romania, and it turned out to be an actor who was on a set in Romania and was just having a hard time with what was going on and what was happening and some decisions that were being made, and he just needed to really talk about it.
It was not my set, by the way.
No, it wasn't.
I just shot in Romania. It wasn't me.
It was a crazy movie that will remain nameless.
Nameless movie.
And this was several years ago, and not with anyone I think any of your audience knows. So
Perfect.
anyway. So I'm talking with him, completely forgetting about the fact that I'm supposed to be on stage to see the end scene, to sing the end song, which of course I missed.
Right.
So yes.
Well, you're fired.
Yes.
I have a worship leader. I worship lead every Sunday. If one of my singers or whatever is not there, I'll just assume they're talking to some actor who's disgruntled on a set somewhere in the world, and I'll give him a break. I'll have some compassion. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know what a difference. Again, I've said this, but you just, if you appreciate what has been happening, where there's been redemptive movies, and maybe you have your favorites, and maybe you have a couple movies that have made you laugh, or touched your heart, or encouraged you, or challenged you, and we see the work the actor does. The actor, and they deserve a lot of the credit. But the casting director who put that actor with that director is an unseen hero for that movie. And again, as a director, I didn't thank anyone more profusely and often than Cinziana from Bucharest, because I loved the cast that we brought together.
Yeah.
And Beverly, the directors owe you their career and some of their children and
That's very
all
nice
kinds
of
of
you to
things.
say.
Because it's huge. It is just huge.
And
So-
I feel the same way about them, the directors and producers who I get to work with and who entrust me with that, because I know many of them are writer-producers or writer-directors, and for them to entrust this thing that they've created, this little baby that they've created in a script, to allow me to be a part of that and to trust me with those things, I realize that's a big deal and it's a big responsibility. And so I'm super, super grateful that I've been able to do that and work with the people I do. I'm really, really fortunate.
Podcasts are crazy things. We're sitting here recording this. We have no idea when or who will ever listen to a podcast. But in my heart, someone's listening to this podcast who has a support role. They're not the upfront preacher. They're not the front line and whatever business they work in.
Right.
And if that's you, and you know that your role is behind the scenes and supportive, I just want to remind you that there may not be a more important person in the kingdom of God in that organization than you. I honest to God think there's no one more important in the success of the film work that we do than casting directors. So if you think your role is insignificant, look at Beverly Holloway, who you might not recognize, but her name is on dozens, probably hundreds of movies, and you probably didn't notice it, but she's made a huge impact. What impact does God use you for in your organization? And it does not have to be the lead role.
No, absolutely not. Someone's got to be the pinky, and someone's got to be the thumb, and someone's got to be the earlobe. We all have our part in the kingdom. And
Paul wrote that pretty much word for word to the
Yes,
church
isn't
at
that what it
Corinth.
was?
He said,
pinky, earlobe, I think
pinky
it was
and
all in
earlobe,
there.
right in the Beverly Holloway version.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you spent time with us today, Beverly. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Bless you in
My
what
pleasure.
you do. Keep up the great work.
You too.
I can't wait to get a chance to really cast a movie with you sometime.
There you go. That'd be
but
great.
Who knows? But thank you for sharing with us today.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure.
The No Shame podcast at the ICVM conference, and we've been with Beverly Holloway. Thank you.
Have no shame. No, we are not afraid. No shame.